to Tuesday the 9th of February. It's Enquiry lesson number 25. I'm going to share my screen with you so I can show you the resources for today and then go through the PowerPoints with today's task. Right then, so first things. There is the first link for Espresso is to this video here. Just gives you a bit of information about seasonality, which we'll go through more in the PowerPoint. This is the further learning sheet, if you would like to do it. Now, there are a couple more links of Espresso, but there's also this link just to this page, because there are loads and loads of videos, activities, fact files, printable resources, images, everything to do with today's work, and that will help with tomorrow, which is our final proper challenge day. It gives you so much information about what's on your plate, growing crops, the food and the environment, our food, farming for the future. That's a key one to use today. And that one, there is that activity, so that video to watch. There is also a quiz. Lots of these link with those videos. So the farming for the future is a little quiz to do, but you would need to watch the video first. Fact file. I think I have also copied this information, farming for the future, and that's the printout that you've got. So that's just, again, more information if you require it. But it's really useful, load of videos, images, everything there. So definitely go on that. So today we're kind of going over a bit of what we learned in the first week or two about where our food comes from, when food is grown, thinking about the impacts that what we eat has on ourselves, on farms, on animals, on the world, on the environment, things like that. Okay, but it's going into a bit more detail, and it will also lead a lot into tomorrow's challenge. I'll make this big, sorry. So field to fork. Did you know that all food comes from either an animal or a plant? What an unbelievable fact. So first task, what did you have for breakfast this morning? Where did your meal come from? Trace your food back to its source. And no, we're not just talking about the supermarket. So, for example, if you had cereal, did that grow in a field? How was that then? How do you think that was then shipped to you? Did a farmer have to cut it? Did it have to go through a production of being, for example, corn being crushed or squished or milled to make into flour or to make into something else? I don't know. The milk that you had on your porridge has come from a cow, it's been milked, again a farmer's been used, some machines have been used, a tanker has to come and collect it, all this sort of stuff. So thinking about not just, oh, I went to the supermarket, got some food, this morning I went to my fridge and my cupboard. Okay, so trying to think back to its actual source, so where it first came from. This could give you some inspiration as to what you have for breakfast. So where food comes from. Now this isn't all food, this is some food that's come from the UK. But again, you could have lamb from New Zealand, you could have beef from Ireland or from somewhere else in the world. This is just some examples of food that is grown or is made in the UK. So you've got clotted cream, tomatoes, cherries, peas, rhubarb, beef, lamb. So just some examples. The red tractor logo that you might see in your food, this tells the buyer that the food is of good quality, and it tells us that the farmer looks after their animals and that the food has been born, grown, prepared and packed in the UK. Because again, that is not true of all food. And also, even in the UK, where we have high expectations of our food, there's still a variety of levels of how well the farmers have looked after those animals or how well the animals live. Some foods are required when they are out of season, so producers grow them in hothouses or greenhouses in the UK. Alternatively, the food is produced abroad and then sent to the UK. Climate and soil conditions mean that not all food types can be produced here. The following foods need to be imported into the UK, so like rice, feta cheese, mangoes, oranges, lemons, bananas and coconuts. So if you think back maybe 20 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, that wouldn't have happened hardly at all, or it would have been very different to how it is happen now. So you would only eat food that is produced in the country or in the area that you live in. So over time, as transport's got better, as machines got better, as refrigeration has got better, we're able to get food from around the world. So here's an example. Feta cheese comes from Greece. And again, this is where we are here. So the cheese has travelled that far. Rice and watermelons have come from China. Again, watermelons grow in other places too. But that's where a lot of our rice comes from. Mangoes and bananas might come from India. Oranges might come from Brazil. Again, not all oranges. This is some examples. Coconuts might have come from Indonesia. So think about how they would get to you. Do they come by boat? How long does that take? Do they come by plane? How long does that take? How is it packaged? How is it kept fresh? Is anything put on the food? For example, some fruits are sprayed with wax or sprayed with pesticides to make them survive longer. Is that good for us? So think of all these impacts on your health, on the food, etc., and on the world. What is seasonality? So if we know what seasons are, so like spring, summer, autumn, winter. Climate conditions affect when food is produced in the UK. Seasonality is a time of year when a food type is at its best in terms of flavour or harvest. Have a look at the seasonality timetable below and work out which of the foods are at their best now. So if you look at one of the words, these are just some examples of food. So for example, new potatoes, they're at their best in April, May, June and July. But I know that I've got some new potatoes in my garden, in my house at the moment, and it's January. So how is that? So think about how farmers have changed, have created like greenhouses where they can keep growing stuff in different time periods, different seasons, or does it come from another country where it's maybe warmer? Vegetables from field to fork. Farmers plough the soil in preparation for the seeds to be sown. So think about what we learned last week about plants. A seed drill is used to plant the seeds into the earth. The holes are covered with earth, and rain and sunshine help the plants to grow. When vegetables are ready, they are harvested. Some vegetables are harvested by hand and others by machine. The vegetables are then sold to shops or at markets. Strawberries. Soil mounds or beds are created in the field using a bed former. The beds are then covered with plastic. Holes are made in the plastic and the strawberry seeds are planted into them. The plastic is like a warm blanket which helps the plant to grow. Some farmers grow their strawberries in tunnels to keep the plants as protected as possible from the elements. Now, last week with my cress experiment, my second video, which we should have hopefully have seen by now, was that the plant that I put in the Tupperware that was sealed, but it was warm. It was in the Tupperware, so it was keeping the heat in, which is a bit like this. It's almost like being in a sleeping bag. It's keeping that extra layer of warmth. And those were the cress seeds that grew the best. And now I realise that's because they were being kept warm. They were warmer than the other cress seeds that were in the kitchen, even though they had all their needs met. The white flowers die and strawberries begin to grow in their place. Once red, the strawberries are ready to be picked by hand and put into punnets, those small containers. These are sold in supermarkets or at local markets. Why do you think they're hand-picked and not harvested by a machine? Think about if lots of people want to have strawberries, do we then need more farmers, more fields, more people to pick them? Think about the impact of that as well. Milk. Cows are milked twice a day. They travel to the milking parlour and take their place in the stalls. The udders are cleaned and 4 rubber cups are fitted to the cow's teats. The machine then gently takes milk from the cow. Now again, think about that cow being milked twice a day. That's quite an impact on the cow. Milk travels along a pipe into a jar where it is measured. The milk is then cooled and kept there until the dairy's tanker makes its daily visit to the farm. The milk goes into the tanker where it is kept cool on its way to the dairy. At the dairy, it is heat treated and cooled very quickly to kill any harmful bacteria. Finally, the milk is put into bottles or cartons ready to sell. Bread, from field to plate. Seeds are sown in the field. The seeds grow into wheat, which is then harvested. The wheat is ground down to make flour. The sacks of flour are driven to a bakery. The bakery mixes flour together with other ingredients such as yeast, sugar, water and salt. This is put into an oven and baked. The loaves are then sliced, packaged and delivered to the shop to be sold. I think all of that happens, and I think this morning I just had a piece of toast. I don't think we appreciate the effort and the work that's gone into all of our food. Farming poultry. So chicks come to the farm and are fed a special diet with water. At 18 weeks old, the chicks are called pullets and taken to breeding farms. The birds mix with roosters and start laying eggs. The eggs are collected and taken to the hatchery where they are kept warm. After about 21 days, the eggs hatch. They are checked to ensure they are healthy. The chicks are sprayed with medicine to protect them from diseases. They are taken to farms and grown to different weights, and that's the chickens that we eat. That's more for the actual eating of chicken rather than of the eggs that we eat. So there'll be different chickens that are used for both of those jobs. So fish. Fish are caught for food by fishermen out at sea. The fish is packed in ice and kept to keep it fresh. It is brought back to the docks where it is sold to shops. The fish might be filleted when you buy it. This means the best parts are kept and other bits are thrown away. So think about how much food waste there is there. What happens to the bits that are thrown away? Could it be used to feed animals? Before you eat. Once vegetables and fruit are picked, they need to be washed before being eaten. Some fruit or vegetables are peeled before being eaten. Can you think of any? Why do you think some need to be washed? We have to cook meat such as chicken, prawn and lamb before eating them. What impacts are there if your food has travelled across the UK? What impacts are there if your food has travelled from another country? And I think the impacts to think about are the work needed to either grow it, make it, rear it, the impact on the animal itself, and the environmental impact. If a plane's having to bring bananas from another country, think about the pollution that's created. So your task is to research the positive and negative impacts of food production. How does different farming, rearing of animals and crops impact our lives, the farmers, the animals and the world? So on Espresso, there's lots of information where you can find things out. There's also that sheet about farming, and then you can present your findings however you wish. You could do fact sheet, you could do posters, you could do PowerPoint, you could just draw a picture if you wanted to. Further learning is all about seasonality. So that's where you could do some research into maybe the food that you eat at home and think, what months is it actually growing? Are they having to grow it especially in special greenhouses, or are we having to get it from other countries? So this says in the UK, but it might be that actually you want to do the food that you eat. Because I think actually I get a lot of food that comes from another country, and that perhaps maybe I need to try and eat more linked to the seasons and what's actually growing locally, so that I'm having less of an impact on the world. That's something that I'm going to think about, definitely. Okay, that's it for today's lesson, but lots of the information that we've done today will very much impact tomorrow's challenge lesson. So I'm looking forward to finding out what you found out.